May be seen at the town office during regular office hours or on the town website at www.townhopkinton.com. Please take notice that a public hearing upon said proposed local law will be held at the Town Hall, 15 Church Street, Hopkinton, New York, on the 21st day of August 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m., and that an opportunity to be heard in regards thereto will then and there be given to those favoring passage of such proposed local law and also those opposed thereto. Dated August 8, 2017 by Vicki Brent. Also at this time, I'd like to read, this is a public hearing regarding the proposed revisions to the wind facilities local law number 4 of 2017. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. All those who wish to speak will have the opportunity to speak once before anyone can speak a second time. All comments are directed to the town board. There will be no debate between audience members. Audience members that become disruptive will be warned once. If the disruption continues, he or she will be asked to leave. If he or she refuses to leave, the public hearing will be closed and the regular meeting will begin. When I call on you, please stand and state your name for the record. And now we will start. Public hearing is now over. Mr. Snell.
I respectfully request that the board not allow the addition of land south of State Route 72 to the wind overlay zone proposed and requested by the upstanding representatives of Avangrid, aka Iberdola, aka Landing Grid. Mr. Parker has indicated that it is his opinion that everyone should have an opportunity to have wind turbines and make money. Leaseholders have even requested that this board do whatever it takes.
I asked you to stand.
No, I'm not going to stand. Do whatever it takes to make sure the towers come.
Jeff,
I believe that was requested
please
from...
stand. Everyone's going to have to stand. Thank you.
Leaseholders have even requested that this board do, quote, whatever it takes to make sure the towers come. I believe that was Gail Kelly who mentioned that. As anyone who attended the DEC presentation in Potsdam last month can attest to, I believe, Sue, you were the only one that was there. The area south of 72 is the headwaters for numerous streams and brooks that supply water not only to Catherinesville State Forest and Whiskey Flat State Forest, but numerous homes in the town. Who is going to protect us when the wells are contaminated? It's clear that this board does not have either the interest or the means to protect its citizens from Avangrid, its deep pockets, and the endless supply of attorneys. Support for Mr. Parker's compromise is a sham. Avangrid has already indicated their intention to fight 2,500-foot setbacks and the decibel levels that have been proposed by the Wind Advisory Committee. Article 10 may play a role in affecting the reasonable and protected setbacks in the DBA set by our Wind Advisory Board. However, they will not interfere with the wind overlay zone. This board has allowed a handful of greedy leaseholders to open Pandora's box, and life as we know it in Hopkinton will no longer be the same. It is truly sad that leaseholders are putting financial gain over the health and well-being of their neighbors. I honestly think the leaseholders like Dick Akins could care less if people or groups of people like the Amish community pack up and leave. That will just make for more land that they can acquire and put more towers on in phase 2 and spread more of this bullshit on. By the way, Dick, how deplorable of you to use your grandchildren to spread your lies in the Hopkinton Fireman's Field Day float you presented. Although I support all of the groups that have formed to fight against turning Hopkinton into an industrial wind turbine zone, I do not represent any of them. I am here as a citizen, a husband, and a father who will do whatever it takes to protect my family and my property.
Jeff, your 3 minutes is up.
How far will you go to protect your rights?
I do have to ask that there be no applause, no booing, no yaying, any of that.
Why? Are you going to get tased, are we?
Janice? I want to
go on record that I oppose this project within the residential town of Hopkinton, New York, for health and safety reasons as well as concern for the environment. Many peer-reviewed studies support the need for further research of the effects of industrial wind turbines on the environment and human health. I have emailed, Facebooked, and handed in information concerning this issue, so the board members all have knowledge of the negatives. I have supplied information to the fire department with health and safety fire-related issues. I have notified the local media about the issues surrounding this project. To go ahead with this project with all of this information presented would prove negligent and unethical. I am asking for you to make the setbacks as restrictive and safe as possible. Know that 2,500 feet is not sufficient, and you must add the measurement of 5 times the height of the turbine for safety, as the setback would indeed have to change if the turbines are larger in this phase or the next. Iberdrola representatives agreed that industrial turbines can cause symptoms. Iberdrola also acknowledges that 3,000 foot is a recognized distance of interest when offering a good neighbor agreement. How come we have to settle with 1,800 feet to 2,000 feet? Please also take out any waivers or variances, as they will leave room for the company to scoot around the guidelines set up in our wind law that have the purpose to protect us. Please follow the Wind Board recommendations, as the board spent many hours investigating the best solution to this problem. Realize 35 dBA, although still too high, although is more protective than 45, and it's still unsafe. The ambient measurements need to be done prior to construction by someone of our choosing that will take measurements that are reasonable. For instance, due to Dick Akins' pulse mill, all of the readings within a mile will be inflated and skewed, so things like that need to be considered. We also need a property value guarantee that will protect people who do not benefit from the project but will be affected. Other towns have put it in their wind law, and it's reasonable to put it in ours. I would suggest contacting their town lawyers and ask them how they did it. Realize that I have talked with many folks around this town, including many of our honest neighbors, and there is no support for this project except the lease and agreement holders. These people have made a terrible mistake, but we should not have to pay and share in their consequences for their lack of proper legal guidance. Iberdrola is pressuring Perishville's Wind Board to make adjustments to their law to ease their burdens, but the only entities that are burdened are the non-participating landowners and the environment. In the changes, they are asking that anyone who makes complaints about sound from the turbines pay for the testing. So if the company comes once and they are in compliance, the next time they come, it costs the person who is complaining. Keep in mind, you might complain on Tuesday, and they might not come that day or the next. They may never test when it's at its worst, and that's the point. Once this project is in operation, there will be very little incentive for these absentee owners to be responsive to citizens. Once all the tax breaks and subsidies have been captured, we will be left with these turbines. The company will try to change our wind law. Any restrictions we implement, they will not respect. The company will do anything to force this project on the population, but we are not going to allow it. We are not a willing host. This is a bad project, one that will shape our small town for the life of these turbines.
If this continues, we will end the public hearing.
We have a right to clap our hands, thank you.
Stand, please, and state your name, sir.
Good evening. My name is Bob Bloom. I'm a resident and a taxpayer in the town of Hopkinton. My wife and I live south of the State Route 72 in a very unique setting. We live a half a mile off from State Route 72 in the middle of Whiskey Flat State Forest on a remote 7.5 acres. I feel very blessed to live here. A quote from your roadside welcome signs: a nice place to come home to. Therefore, I support no expansion of the wind overlay zone south of Route 72. Now, I would like to address 2 previous issues from the town board and the wind advisory meetings that I brought forth. The first, I addressed in early spring. I asked you as the town board what Hopkinton will look like in 20 years. If industrial wind turbines were allowed to come into our community, what sort of legacy are you, the town board, going to leave for your children, your grandchildren, your friends, and your neighbors? I have done the research. In 20 years, if allowed, we will be one of the statistics as an industrial wind turbine junkyard. Fact, right now, in the U.S. alone, there are over 14,000 abandoned industrial wind turbines. Industrial wind turbines left to rust and to leak fluids that are not dismantled. Okay, I'm sure the wind company said they would dismantle them. Fact, they are still standing. The second thing that I would like to address is the fear of forest fires. I addressed this both to the town board and to the wind advisory board. Where I live, there's always an ever-present danger of forest fires. Fact, industrial wind turbines do catch on fire. Fact, the wind company's answer to this is let them burn. Because the DEC will not allow people into the state forest to cut dead and down timbers, which I addressed at the DEC's meeting in Potsdam. The forest floor is a tinderbox. It's not a problem this year. We've had an overabundance of rain. Last year, there was a countywide, statewide burn ban set forth. If you expand south of Route 72, you are dealing with two state forests, Whiskey Flat, where my wife and I live, and the Catherinesville State Forest, both bordering the APA. A potential for a forest fire. The best words to describe this, danger ahead. With that said, as you as our elected officials, you must protect all the people in the town of Hopkinton. If anything, you as the town board need to do what is right.
Bob, your time is up.
Okay?
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
I got a question. If these things get in here, how is the money that's coming
What's
out?
your name, sir?
Larry Drake. I live on Lake Azonia. That's my home, which is the cash cow for this town. And I pay a lot of taxes. And I'm curious to know what's gonna happen with the money that the town is gonna receive from these things. And how it's gonna be handled. Who gets the money? How is it handled? Where's it go if they get in here? That's my question.
Can't answer that question at this time because we have not negotiated any amount of money.
Don't you think that's something maybe we have to look into? If they do come here,
Absolutely.
I think that's something that should be looked at.
New firehouse.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should be here, but if they are here, we should decide what we're gonna do with the money.
I will. Excuse me, sir. I couldn't hear what you said, Mr. Drake.
I think we should, whether they get here or not, but if they do get here, I think we should be talking about the money a little bit. What's gonna happen with the money they generate for the town? Nobody seems to be talking about that here. I'd like to know how that works.
Thank you. In the back, green shirt.
Yeah, my name is John McDonald. My wife and I am on campus. About 2 weeks ago, we were asked to take surveys among the camp owners of Lake Azonia. There were two petitions that we were asked to give to these people and have them sign. Now, while most of the property owners on the lake do not have an option to vote in the town of Hopkinton, we do provide significant tax revenue to this town and the Parrishville School District. We received input from approximately 50 of the camp owners. There would have been more if I had more time to do this. I myself surveyed over half of these people. There were two petitions, okay? The first petition was opposed to the granting of a pilot or any tax deductions or discontinued assessments for the energy companies seeking to install wind turbines in our community. I believe it's important to note that the people that signed these petitions, some of them were for wind turbines, some of them were against wind turbines. Regardless of whether they were for them or against them, 90% of the people that signed these petitions were against the pilot. They were against any reduction in taxes for Iberdrola, which we understand is a Spanish company. We believe as a group that company should be taxed at their full assessment, like the people in this room are, like the other people that live in Hopkinton and the businesses in Hopkinton. That was the first proposal, and again, it was the for the wind farm and not for the wind farm. 90% of them not supporting the tax deductions for either of those. The second petition that we had, you have to excuse me, my age, I gotta write this stuff, I don't remember everything. The second petition sought input from property owners south of Route 72, which includes everyone at Lake Azonia. Okay, my understanding is the proposal is essentially to include a ban of any wind turbines south of 72. It establishes a setback of 5 times the height of the wind turbines or 2,500 feet. It also established a maximum decibel level of 40 dBA. Again, over 90% of the camp owners that signed this were in support of this proposal. So that gives you some input, factual input. We will continue to survey the people on Lake Azonia. And after almost 50% of the campers surveyed, 90% is consistently against any reduction in taxes and against anything going south of 72. I have one other question for the town council. And again, I'm still educating myself. But I recently read a document authored by a Scott McDonald, who is the lead senior business developer for Avangrid Renewables. He's no relationship to me. Okay, well, I'm not sure I understood the document entirely. He seemed to indicate that buildings not attached to public utilities, which do not have running water, or are not hooked up to a sewer or septic system, according to town laws or ordinances, should not be considered dwellings or residences, and therefore would not qualify under any setback regulations. It has been my experience that most of the Amish homes do not contain
Sorry,
any of
Mr.
these
McDonald,
amenities.
3 minutes is up.
She's asked you not to clap. They have the right to make the rules. The rules is not to clap.
I'm not.
Please do not allow them to shut this down. The rule is don't clap. Please don't clap.
I know.
Let him finish this.
No, he had his 3 minutes, I'm sorry, we've got to.
Let him finish.
At the end,
You must decline.
I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald.
This lady wants to ask something.
I'm Teresa Drantlett. I live on 11D here, and I just want to hear what he had to say because he seems non-biased in either direction. So my 3 minutes can go to him.
And no, we can't do that. Well, there will be time after for him to speak again.
It's just
John
two
has to walk the front, but maybe she can read.
You want to read this? Somebody else wants to take?
Next. Sandy Main.
I recently read a documentation.
You have to wait. Sandy's one right for a moment.
Ooh.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that I love everybody in this room. I'm not real happy with certain people, but I do love everybody in this room. They're my neighbors, my friends, my new acquaintances. For a year, many of us have been coming to these meetings. We have been trying to explain why those of us raised here, those who have stayed, and why those of us who have moved here came. It wasn't for easy living, fabulous shopping, or high-paying jobs. It's because we appreciate this place as it is. Calm, clean, safe, neighborly, and natural. We aren't asking for more than that. We are asking that you do not allow that to be taken away from us. There are still many who struggle to make ends meet in the North Country, but they are not the people who would benefit from this project. They are the ones who would suffer the most. Those with health problems, modest homes on small lots, non-specialized job skills, and no ability to move away. They would be the ones that would bear the burden. It's not fair or moral to sacrifice the rights of many for the benefit of the few. As you know, over 300 Hopkinton residents and property owners have serious concerns about different aspects of this project. In the last few weeks, 152 of them south of Route 72 have signed a petition opposing expansion of the wind overlay zone into that area. That's 152 people. Please consider there are only 9 individuals, counting husbands and wives, with recorded leases there, and only 1 couple actually resides there. The developer's map shows 4 more sites where leases have not been found in county records, with only 1 more possible leaseholder living south of Route 72.
Finished? Oh, okay, thank you. Jan, you can go now.
To finish this.
Your name again? I'm sorry.
My name is Teresa Drenlet. I live on 11D. Since I recently read a document authored by Scott McDonald, who is the lead senior business developer from Avangrid Renewables. He is no relative, you already read that part, so forgive me for repeating. While I am not sure I understand the document entirely, he seems to indicate that buildings not attached to the public utilities, which do not have running water or are not hooked up to sewer or septic systems, according to town laws or ordinances, should not be considered dwellings or residences and therefore would not qualify under any setback regulations. It has been my experience that most Amish homes do not contain any of these amenities and therefore would not qualify under the 2,500-foot setback requirement. But the turbines could be placed as close as the company wanted to an occupied Amish home. Can you answer relative to wind turbine setback how the town of Hopkinton defines a dwelling or residence? And can you direct your answers to the Amish folks in the audience? Thank you.
My name is Jeannie Bryce. I'm a camp at Lake Lasonia, and it's my understanding that this proposal for a wind farm in Hopkinton and Parishville is a proposal for a bid to have a wind farm in Hopkinton or Parishville that is being submitted by the association to the state of New York with hundreds of other towns and cities that are bidding on wind farms. That this is just one, it's a bid, it's not a done deal, and that when the state chooses which proposals to choose, they decide on what the values and what the costs are and where it goes and how it goes, with some considerations of the town and the town's wishes. But that is my understanding, that this is a proposal that's going to bid and not a bid, not a done deal.
Thank you.
Amber Lindsay, Route 72, Hopkinton. In the past month, I've had cause to drive through the wind farms in Chateauguay and Brainerdville. I took the time to stop and assess the sheer monstrous size of the turbines, the far too close proximity to many homes and farms. But most alarming of all was the noise level. Anyone who believes the noise is minor should take the time to look and listen personally. It is anything but minor. My heart goes out to the sorry souls who must now view, feel, listen to, and live with the constant flicker and shadows produced day and night non-stop. I chose not to walk up to one for fear I would see dead birds and bats, which would have further compounded the profound sadness of these monsters of the sky. I was hesitant to knock on doors for fear it would simply be people who signed for a mere pittance of money to keep their opinions to themselves, no matter what they may live with now. They no longer have a choice. And that holds true for leaseholders. Now, no matter how they feel now, they are trapped in the scheme. Please open your hearts and minds to the adverse effects and the fact a very large portion of both of these communities, Hopkinton and Parishville, are concerned, and rightfully and factually so. If I were not 64 years old, I would put my house up for sale, most likely take a huge loss on my investment, and move somewhere where I can feel safe and live the rest of my life in peace and comfort. Please remember the constituents and voters of these communities and let their voices bear merit and be heard. The Wind Advisory Board thoroughly and carefully made their recommendations for this town. Please respect their wise decisions and advice. It affects our entire community. A slight supposed reduction in property tax is certainly not 50%. And the pockets of leaseholders lined is not worth the price we will all pay. We are a community divided, and we can thank our Iberdrola from Spain, not of the United States of America, for that. Thank you for your time and consideration to such an important town issue. We still have a choice here in Hopkinton. It is not too late to make the right one for everyone. No clapping.
Debbie?
Yep, Debbie Parker at Green Road. I'd just like to say, my husband and I are in favor of the wind tower. I didn't move here, I was born here, I was raised in the house that my father was born in. His parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, on both sides of my family. I've been here for generations. I think it's an opportunity that I'd like to take part in. I don't have a speech written. I just wanted to voice my opinion. My husband and I both went to Chattagay, turned the car off, listened intentionally. We didn't hear anything, and this was way back before any of this wind turbine came up, because we'd never seen them. We were on our way to Vermont. We stopped and said, oh, look at them, and we stopped, shut the car off and listened. Nothing. There's a lot of propaganda that a lot of people believe that you're going to get cancer, you're going to get this, that. I think it's ridiculous. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. I wouldn't force my opinion on anybody. I've seen people here I've known my whole life on that side of the house that wouldn't even look at me when I came in because I'm on this side. And people don't respect the board. You ask them not to clap, they clap. You ask them to stand, they don't stand. What's the adult? If the board asks us not to do something or to do something and people can snicker if they like, let's do it. And another thing, singling people out like vacations or any other community person, I think that's childish. Name calling, singling people out. There's a lot of people in this community are very glad to be working for Dickens. Thank you.
Bill?
Bill Converse, Hopkinton, for now. Looking at the proposed wind advisory laws, Article 3 talks about the creation of the wind overlay zone. It clearly says in paragraph B that the town board shall refer development of the wind overlay zone to the wind advisory board. Based on that, I'm not sure why we're voting to go against what the wind advisory board recommends as far as what the overlay zone should be and should not be south of Route 72. They have guidelines, the wind advisory board, the stuff they need to look at when they consider what the overlay zone should include. And the comment was made that there's no scientific fact between one side of the road and the other, and why shouldn't we include that? Well, one thing you're forgetting, one of the criteria is public opinion. And I was at most of the meetings for the wind advisory board, and the board listened to public opinion. Public opinion clearly stated they didn't want an expansion of the wind overlay zone. And I say expansion even though theoretically we never had an overlay zone, an original one. Well, we did in my eyes, okay? The town board voted that they had a set of property that they wanted to designate. The wind advisory board recommended it. A lawyer didn't do his job, is why we don't have one on the books. So when I say an expansion of the wind overlay zone, I think I'm accurate in saying that statement. Thank you.
Frank?
Frank Bowman's on. Well, we've pretty much heard everything. About the CCRP, the good people. They were forced to update their DPS site twice because of misleading information they had previously entered. They couldn't even tell the truth. It's New York State. Photo simulations on CCRP sites show cluster turbines in an area where there's none. More misinformation. You look at the disclaimer, the bottom of the CCRP site. They do not assume any liability whatsoever for accuracy or completeness of any of their information, yet they haul armloads of it to for you to read. Garbage. The idea that they've been bullying these two towns. We experienced that walking in the door by these gentlemen. It's normal. There is also talk around town against members of the board and members of the fire department, which is just cheap shots. The people making the comments have never served in any public standing. These men here go into dangerous situations for you people, and yet these two individuals decide to slander these two. The two individuals, part of concerned citizens, aren't worthy to walk in these guys' shadows.
Cut out the
Thank
personal
you.
attacks.
Thank you, Frank. Next. Yes, sir.
You know, my name's Joe Pease, live in Hopkinton, BB Road. I'm sick of hearing about bullying and about attacks. Talk about bullying, these people are trying to ram these turbines down our throats. Okay? She says she doesn't want to force her opinion on anybody. What's going on here? What is this? Who are your mothers? Who raised you people?
I know who raised me.
Enough.
Don't.
Enough.
What?
Let's not go there. This has to
Obviously you
do-
forgot.
This has to do.
No,
with-
I didn't.
Greg,
Started here.
Greg,
This is
stop.
not an attack. Started right here. Started.
Stop.
Hold your own board to your same standards.
Jeff, out.
You better get some more state troopers in if you want to do it soon.
Out. Go.
Let's see it. Let's see it on the front page of the paper.
I want to live in my home. I don't want to have to move.
Jeff, you
There's a
have
few
to leave.
people in this town really thinking about a people. Who else besides the leaseholders wants this? Nobody. Why would you? Do you want to see them? Do you want to feel them? Do you want to get sick from them? And why are you two? What are you doing? Are you taking money? What's going
Enough.
on?
There will be no accusations. And yes.
That was a question. That was a question.
That is enough. That is enough.
I
I
am
pay
representing
taxes
people.
too. This is my town up too.
I want you removed. You're disruptive.
Okay, go ahead. Do it.
Ma'am, could we have him removed?
Can I
You didn't
go
break the
first
law.
before you make a reason?
No.
That's a lot of pressure for her not representing us. Yeah, we get it.
You want me to
Majority
go?
of the people don't want it.
She has to leave her. Joe, are you finished?
I'm said my piece.
I have nothing prepared. My name is Robin Wolfen. My father and I came about 6 months ago. We stood in the back. He bought his house on Fletcher Road, but for my whole life growing up, I knew it as Catherinesville Road. It turns into Fletcher Road when you hit the Hopkinton state line. It is south of Route 72, of course. It's across from the Catherinesville Flats. I guess it's called the state land is across from my father's house. And he put all the electric lines in. They cost more than his house did to get the electric down there. He was the first house there after many, many years. He's in a nursing home now, and he can't see. Okay, so I'm going to get emotional, I guess. And he can't see and he can't talk. But he wrote on a whiteboard that I should come to the meeting because, you know, he never wanted these turbines. And as far as I can see, like, I don't know all the statistics. I know they're on both sides. I know people here are very passionate, and of course people say things they shouldn't. It gets personal and it shouldn't. But the bottom line I see is that it's about popular opinion. And if this is an open forum, and if most of the talk here is against the expanding the overlay zone, if it's against pilots, if it's against, you know, if it's about the most restrictive setbacks, that's what you have to listen to. You're here to represent this whole community. not just the people that are lease owners. And I don't understand why it has to keep going and going and going. You can hear this. You can see it in the room. They had as much right to be at this meeting. The one woman who spoke, good for her. You know, that's her right to speak. And I respect that. But if there's so many other people in favor of it, they should be here. And we've had I know in Parishville where my mother lives, I know she answered the questionnaire. I think my father, yeah, and Hopkinton did too. That was clearly against the turbines. So this room is clearly against the turbines. It seems reasonable. It's a reasonable thing to do everything you can to stop them from coming here. We're all affected by it, whether we get cash in our pockets or whether these big monstrous things are, within our sight. We're all affected. So I just feel like you have to listen to the people. That's what it's about. That's all.
Thank you. Kathy, did you want to speak? Then Kate, Hopkinton, I'm so excited to be here tonight. After coming to all of the advisory meetings, and having to go through all this again, there's one person in this room on the board that has come to all the meetings, even came to all of the town board meetings in Parishville, all of the planning board meetings in Parishville, and other meetings. And kudos to you, Sue, whatever side you're on, you're trying. You other people, I don't mean to embarrass you, I'm just saying, you didn't come. And so I'm so tired of telling you, you missed it. You missed the show. And I'll tell you my favorite one was when Mike Lawrence, is it? Yes, Mike Lawrence, came from Brandon, big farmer, supervisor. And he said it got ugly. At one point, a black leather briefcase was set at his feet. I didn't touch it. It might have been full of fresh underwear. But all of a sudden, the board members had a 180 in their opinion. So I'm hoping none of you have fresh underwear on. Here's what I really want to tell you. I am from Hopkinton. You discredit anyone that's not from Hopkinton. Even though they were born here, and they go back 16 generations, and their families founded this town. I got more clout because I live here. They live over the line in the faraway town of Parishville. So it doesn't matter. We should. We're all one. It's our sister town. I live off the grid. I'm your neighbor, your father's neighbor, and I don't have electricity. I don't have indoor plumbing. I live as green as you can get. I live not as green as my Amish brothers, but nearly. And this is where you want to put 500-foot towers in my quiet woods on top of the Captain Hill Aquifer. If you don't know the difference in north of 72 and south of 72, then you don't know the difference in corn syrup and maple syrup.
Very good.
Kelly, trying to go back on the board. Kelly Hopkinton, Hopkinton. Now, the Wind Advisory Board and the town board has been provided with peer-reviewed studies and reports that show that wind energy development will not result in negative health and safety impacts. Yet the local law has been revised again to incorporate more restrictive requirements that do not have any apparent purpose. If setbacks are designed for public safety rather than trying to impose obstacles to wind development, the law should have a separate 500-foot setback from state land. State lands within the project are extensive and are actively used for many different purposes. The board has not provided any reason why a setback greater than the height of the turbine is necessary for the boundary of state land. And there has been a lot of talk about EVs and affecting people and affecting children.
Women's Health had an article about that. The blood moving through vessels in a woman, movement of stomach and intestinal movement reach a level of about 90 dB, the level of the background noise in an apartment next to an elevated train. Yet we seem to have normal children being born. And that's a whole lot more than what we're asking in dBs for the world. And you want to say that some are natural sounds and some aren't. Sound is sound, period. And that is true. And it's, yeah, I've lived near an airport, didn't keep me up. My husband lived near the Long Island Railroad, and it went by all day and all night. Yet he turned out reasonably intelligent, and he slept nights. It's, a lot of it is people are afraid, and there's a lot of misinformation that has been put out there. And it's great. A lot of it is not true, but they have frightened people, and there are a lot of people who will not come to these meetings because they have gotten nasty. People who are pro-wind, probably some who are anti-wind too, but the people have gotten so rude, they will not come to a meeting. So it isn't just that we're outnumbered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know I don't live in Hopkinton, but I understand. I know, I was in Poland.
Mike Warren came to my door the other night to ask me to sign a petition for this and I said, Mike, turn around and tell me what you see. This is Lexi Hopkins. I said, exactly. I'm at the highest point in Brandon. I said, when I go through Hopkinton at night, what do I see? I see the Roundson Tower, which is only 275 feet tall, and it's at low elevation. So I have standing at 630 feet tall. I will have blades spinning out all my front windows, out my front yard, across my 450-foot of road frontage for my kids and my grandkids like to play. I don't want it. I also have code officer's book, and you're going to have to get your code officer to look it up for you. The seismic activity, tall structures, is the last document that my code officer handed in when our town tossed the pro-wind law and made the restrictive law so only small wrecks are allowed. And Brandon also says 120 feet with no variance. You have a variance, you're going to have tons of them. And there's never, never a phase 1 without a phase 2 across the world, which I have been studying since 2004. And I have kept up on most of it. I've worked with people. I worked with the doctors, scientists. I worked with people from both sides. You know, I visited, I don't know how many of them. Don't do it. Our town is just now healing. It took 8 years to fight. Well, we won. And it was this time, same time of year when they had the public hearing. And our board members, since there were 2 of them that were up for election, said, let's table this until the election because we don't know if we're going to be sitting on this board. We don't know who's going to be having to handle this. So that's a couple of suggestions I have. And the other suggestion is the opinions have got to go. They've got to go. Represent the majority of the people. Not your opinion. Your opinion is not the majority opinion. It doesn't count. And I'm telling you what, now we move down my road and people will wave. We threw that law away, what, in 2008? They're starting to wave again. It's now 2017. It's sad. I moved up from a big city to get out of the industry. And you say there's no jobs here. My grandson graduated SUNY Canton Day for Mother's Day. He was in Plattsburgh working Monday morning.
Thank you,
Jobs
Andy.
being hired 2
3
months
minutes,
beforehand.
yeah.
There's
Kelly.
jobs.
Much of the land south of 72 is different than other parts of the town, as has already been stated tonight. How much land will be destroyed for each industrial turbine? When the board discussed expanding the overlay at the last meeting, it was mentioned that more facts were needed. You did have the facts from the Wind Advisory Board. And as mentioned, your law states that you would go to the Wind Advisory Board for the overlay. The developer would like you to believe that you do not have a current wind overlay. You as the town board know that is not true. The original wind overlay has been on the website with the law. The town board did pass the original overlay when they passed the current law that is on the books. To no fault of your own, only the wind law was filed with New York State. This is a loophole, a mistake that Iberdrola has found. This company is very good at finding procedural mistakes. They look at these small town boards, most of you who have full-time jobs doing other things than the board, and they look for what mistakes you're going to make. They are taking advantage of you. In the PIP, which was filed by the company in May of 2016, they stated the project was going to be made up of mostly agricultural land. 1 year later, May 2017, the PSS states that the project will be made up of 79% forested land. So what's going to happen to this forested land? Well, their PSS states that it takes 125,600 feet, an area, that much meaning 2.88 acres per turbine. 2.88 acres, almost 3 acres of land is going to have to be destroyed just to put in one turbine. So each turbine, you're destroying 3 acres of land for the turbine itself. That does not include widening the roads to get the turbine parts to the location. Does not include access roads. It does not include the land that will be destroyed for the transmission lines. That is just per turbine. As you know, the land south of 72 is heavily forested. Includes a lot of state land. So by allowing turbines south of 72, you are creating deforestation. Habitat will be destroyed. The forest will be forever destroyed. There are also several wetlands within the project area, many of which are south of 72. The developer has stated that there are 263 wetland communities that take up 888 acres. Much again of this is south of 72. So they've also stated that they will have to convert some of the wetlands. So in other words, they're going to destroy, get rid of completely, forever, several of our wetlands, much of that being south of 72 if you allow the turbines to go there.
Thank you. You had your hand up.
Susan White, all I know is that I don't want to look at an athletic career. So I just want to say that I really do not want to.
Thank you. Oh, over?
I'm one of the leaseholders that doesn't live there south of 72.
Your name?
Bill Bart, Magic. I am a leaseholder. I am in favor of the wind overlay for 72. That being said, can I take it or leave it? Yes. What this board needs to do is listen to the majority of your taxpayers. Not this group, not this group. You need to do some research. You need to talk to all your constituents, as a pro, as a con, and do what you are going to do and support your constituents and vote what they wish for you to do. That's your job. That's what you got to do.
Thank you.
Wait, did he say he was a non-resident? I didn't
I
get
am.
that. Okay. So you're not going to live where this is going to be?
I said that you
Okay,
know.
sorry. Any others?
Yes.
I'm Ricky Hooper. I live down 72 here. I
I did 26 years in the military. I did plenty of years in the Hopkinton Fire Department. And I own my name. I don't have a lot, but where I've been in the military, I was on a flight line, noise all the time. I'm not dumb. Actually, I'm pretty smart. I got an eyesore in my backyard, a Verizon tower. It don't bother me. It's just there. Jets go by, no big deal. But everybody who wants to sit here and complain about everybody else, what they want, because they own their land, it's their land. If they want something, why can't they have it?
Because it affects
If I
other
could
people.
have one myself, I would. I don't have enough land. I don't have a job. I don't work. I'm a disabled vet. And what money I do get survives my family with help here from the community. And I had no qualms against this gentleman here. I gave him, he bought the chunk of land across from me when I bought the house up the road. It was no good to me. It helped him with his farmland. I'm not going to make a lot of hassles with people. I'm not that type of person, and people have to get along. If it comes, it comes. If it don't, it don't. But it's going to happen eventually, whether some people are going to like it or not. And I have no objections at all to what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
David Slater, out of Nickelville. I'm just thinking forward after this meeting and as we move this whole progression towards Article 10 because of the reality that it's going to be the final decision on what happens to this project. I just want to keep in mind just some things that, one, I don't know offhand, and I don't think you're answering questions. Harrisville's revised wind law, was ever ratified or not? If it was, then we have to be careful that we also kind of coincide with the same type of letter of law, otherwise we're going to have probably conflicts of interest, which I'm sure, and I am kind of mostly neutral about this project, but I'm sure Avangrid's smart enough that they're going to be able to leverage and take advantage of that if we have conflicts of interest between two communities, because the towers aren't built those communities. So I would like to also point out that once the wind law is ratified, no matter what the setbacks, I think, and this I believe is in both versions of the wind law for Harrisville and Hopkinton, is that there's supposed to be an engineering study done then to follow up on this to get exact site dimensions of the radii around whatever setback whatever is decided upon by both communities in full detail by an engineering firm. And I think that's going to be highly critical that that is released to the public as soon as feasibly possible, whoever pays for that, because I think that's really going to give us a very, very good picture that all of us will be able to follow, whether you're a leaseholder, a good faith leaseholder, a good neighbor leaseholder, or a non-participating leaseholder, of exactly where these setback radii are going to affect, whether it's going to be on your neighbor's property, and they might have a tower, or whether it's on all the adjacent properties, and there are no towers except one on a corner, or if it's going to affect Catherineville State Forest, or no matter where it's going to affect. I think we really need to have that kind of hard fact data in order to really drive our decisions again, especially as we move closer and closer to Article 10. Because I don't know how many of you read that really, really onerous, long the comments from Avangrid based off of PSS comments, but most of their comments really reference Article 10 in the application phase. They're not answering a lot of the questions pre-application phase because they don't have to. By law, they only need to follow whatever Article 10 process lays out with a 6-step process. So I just want to make sure everybody keeps the big picture in the final meeting.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Kelly Johnson, Aola, Hopkinton.
and I appreciate everyone's time, so I'll be brief. Getting away from an industrial skyscrape and landscape is part of the reason that my family moved here. Part of the reason. Another part was to live alongside people who cared about the health of their neighbors. We have been happy here. We are not in favor of the wind turbine. Before we allow this big wind company to permanently alter our town, we should pause and remember all of the premises and clean up from the other industrial companies that left a footprint on the North Country. So not just the wind company. There are U.S. diplomats who have recently been the victims of infrasound. When asked about it, the U.S. authorities say that they were not able to measure that type of noise. Meaning we don't know everything there is to know about what we need to know about what the hazards are that are out there. I ask the board to represent my concerns that the highest standards set for protecting our health and the environment be followed. And I do thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Yes, Nancy Moran. At one of our many meetings, Avangrid representative, Mr. Koppelman, stated that if they were to adhere to all the established setbacks, there would be no room for the wind turbine. I responded to that fact and said that fact alone, it seems to me, indicates that perhaps this is not a good site for a wind farm. Yet the project moves on. It seems that the money the company will walk away with is more important than the people in our communities who may experience health risks through the wind turbine system if setbacks aren't long enough. Shame on them, and shame on us if we allow this to happen in our communities. Thank you.
Hi, Ruth Daly. I live in Parrishville, but I care about both towns. And I think you should know that over 300 people in Hopkinton have serious concerns about this project. 800 people, over 800 people in Parrishville and Hopkinton. And I was just wanting to have a show of hands in this room of people who don't think this is a good project or think that there's a lot more we need to learn before anything else happens.
Is that it, Luke? Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Sarah Farrar, Lake Azonia. I'm also a resident of Long Island. And if we turn back the clock over a decade ago, which I wish I would have kept the newspaper articles, this company came to Long Island, to the North Shore, okay, to try to put their windmills down there. Well, there's two things Long Island has that the North Country doesn't have, and that's money and lawyers. And boy, did it stop really quick, okay? And now we're going to fast forward the clock 10 years because they've been looking around where they can find it, and this is a political move. I know it because I'm from Long Island, and I've seen political moves that this state does, okay? And this is one of them. And they're trying to cram this down our throats up here, okay? Because they couldn't get it in where the power is needed on Long Island.
Yes. Could you speak a little louder, Leslie? I live on Wilson Road, and I just want to say that our family is totally against this project. However,
the wind advisory committee that was drawing up the law did a thorough job. They listened to a lot of people. It took a lot of time. And I think that it's in our best interest to go along with a lot of what they recommended. Thank you.
Okay. I knew you were waiting for the end there. Let me turn my page. Please stand.
I'm Dick Higgins, Hopkinton resident and taxpayer, and Kelly invited me to explain my sign. Well, it got some attention, I hope it did, and now I'll show you the facts. Sue kind of recanted some of her conversations, but I approached Vicki and asked how much dollars from the taxes was raised for the town of Hopkinton in its budget. It doesn't include fire, it doesn't include the county tax, just includes our town of Hopkinton tax. And Vicki, give you a copy of the budget. It's $560,487. So I went back, had a conversation with Sue. And I said, Sue, on a pilot, what do you think we might get? She said, we haven't negotiated a pilot. And then I said, well, do you think we get 400,000? She says, I really don't think so. I said, do you think 300,000 is a feasible number? And she said, yeah, I think it could bring me like that. But regardless, if you take what Avangrid has proposed, this is before anybody negotiates. Now, I think anybody negotiates always can raise what they're offering or asking for. They're offering $750,000, well, for the whole project. So with 29 turbines in Hopkinton, that's approximately $20,000 they're offering per turbine. That comes up to $580,000. At $20,000 per turbine to 29. And Sue and I both talked and said we think Hopkinton is deserving of 50%. And for what this town board and their help everybody's gone through, I see why we would want to give over half it to somebody else. So I'm saying 50% of it will come to the town of Hopkinton. If they can't negotiate, I will find people that can negotiate for them. And at that, you're going to get 280,000. Well, half of 560 is what? 280. That is 50% of what was raised last year for our budget. Is that saying that's what the town ought to do with it? That's what it could do for us. The first thing that I do, you ought to use the money to get out of debt. Because that's one of the reasons I'm for this. Somebody said, well, why did I get my grandchildren involved? Do I want to leave my grandchildren in debt? I'd rather have them give them something that's going to make everything better. That's the way I feel about it. And I would think the town board, before they make up their mind, get your budget together for another year before you throw it out the window. And also, Kelly made another point we talked about. I was a little upset with the way she attacked Steve Parker last week.
Unfortunately, you're 3 minutes too low. Yes, Kelly.
I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I have to respond to what Dick just said.
Please respect the board.
Okay. What Dick is misunderstanding here is his sign says Hopkinton taxes will be reduced by 50%. Now, most of you, I'm sure, read the North Country Now this week and understand that that is not at all what the conversation was about. Taxes last year were raised $560,000. The half is the half of what was raised, not the half of the taxes. Nobody's taxes are going to be reduced by 50%. Nobody's taxes. So I hope that everybody takes the time to read, what Sue wrote in the North Country Now. It's clear as day. What Dick Stein says is not true at all. He knows it's not true because it's been in the newspaper. It's been in the newspaper for a week now. And you still continue to move the sign around town and deceive the residents of Hopkinton. So I hope that it's clear If it's not clear, I'd be happy to explain it to everybody, or I'm sure Sue would be happy to explain it again.
Thank you. Yes, my name's Angela Spear, and I'm from Harrisville. And my husband and I moved up here from Syracuse. We were in Philadelphia before that. Most people don't know what high taxes are. Number two, I have been going to these meetings pretty faithfully since we moved up here. It's been about a year. And I don't hear my peeps talking about money. They don't care about the money. I would gladly take a rise in my taxes. And we don't have a lot of money. My husband works, I stay home and take care of the kids. We don't have a lot of money. I would gladly take a rise in my taxes to keep those turbines out of this community. The first meeting I went to, I believe, Mrs. Hopkinton made a comment that our kids are moving away, so basically what the heck? Everybody's moving away, so why not turn it into an industrial wasteland? Well, why ensure that our children will never come back here? I have 3 grown children, 2 in Syracuse, 1 in Kansas. They don't want to visit here if there's turbines in my backyard. That's not why we moved here. We didn't move here. My husband made a hell of a lot more money in Philadelphia, let me tell you. Of course, our taxes were higher. We came here, as was said earlier, for peace and quiet and nature and to raise the 5 children we still have at home on a farm. Only to get here and find that a few people in this community, and Mrs. Cotenzano just stated earlier, that the contract holders, the people who want the turbines, are in the minority. They are outnumbered. I have never once heard anybody say, well, if we were getting money, then it would be okay. That's never, ever been an issue. We want our health, we want our property values, we want nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
Yeah, just going off what she said, I'm in a similar situation.
Your name?
My name is Fred Anderson, I live in Fort Jackson. I purchased a really old house a couple years ago, and I'm looking to rehab the house. It took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of work into it, so obviously property value is a major concern. I like the deer down here. I've looked all around, and I tried to find a place that I really like. I like the Amish, I like the community, I like how friendly people were, and I feel that these wind towers is part of the thing that I was trying to escape by getting away from the city. It's a huge corporation swinging around deep pockets trying to get what it wants, and there's a lot of bureaucracy, and it can't be trusted. I recognize that. I'm not old, but I know that much. First of all, not anyone who want to go into business, but they're not green, too. This is what makes me so angry. I see that advertisements in place take a huge structure that displaces wildlife. Anything that has a heart and brain that tries to get away from it, that's not something that's green. Killed birds and bats, the carbon emissions, it doesn't reduce other alternative carbon emissions. It's not efficient. Corporations themselves, especially when they're that big, are inherently not green. They care about one thing, that's making money and getting more power. A lot of people, they've already said the way I feel. I'm firmly in the no camp. I hope that you guys will recognize where I'm coming from and where most of the people are.
Thank you. Yes. Robin?
Robin Gary, I've been on kitten a very long time, and I really don't want that big beast in my skies when I look up. No, I'm a no sayer. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Dean Lobster, I'm from Hopkinton, but I own rental property out in Avangrid. And the fact that I pay state and federal taxes, that I could drill and navigate utilized to build their wind farms, I feel compelled to comment. The last few years, I've been contemplating purchasing property in the greater Hopkinton, Parisville areas. However, I will no way keep purchasing any property located within eyesight of the wind farms that are proposed. Property owners hurt the most by this large corporation and the selfish landowners profiting handsomely off the back of their neighbors and families are the ones that have the most to lose because their land values are increasing greatly in value would be hurt even more because individuals like myself will not be interested in purchasing property, their property. There's been much propaganda wrapped up in shiny packages and fed to residents. Wind turbines are in no way green, renewable, and there's so much credible evidence showing this to be true. If in fact there were no federal state subsidies or pilots paid to these foreign corporations like Avangrid, they would not even consider building here. Please show me one large-scale wind farm in New York State that was built without subsidies. Last, there will no doubt in the future be irreparable damage caused by these non-green, non-renewable wind turbines, but much long-term irreparable harm has already been inflicted. The damage to long-standing intergenerational communities, families, and friends forever divided by the selfish, greedy actions of a few for a short-term gain. I'm very much opposed to it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Vincent Manning. I've lived for 44 years on the Cassidy Road, town of Hopkinton. Built my house there in 1973. I've been trying to get some research done, but it's very difficult because there is so much, I guess I'm going to have to use the word propaganda on the side of the windmills because they have the money and they can publish what has been said this evening to be peer-reviewed studies, which in effect, if you know what a peer-reviewed study is, they're not peer-reviewed studies. There are studies on both sides of this, neither one of them peer-reviewed, none of them. But they state on one side that there is cause for alarm over the health and safety of the people that are in proximity to these wind towers. There is also some evidence of damage to well water. I know my well water is, my pipe is down into rock. And it's pretty obvious to me that if you have these huge wind towers, not one or two, but 29 or 50, vibrating, it's going to affect the rock. And it's going to hurt those wells. And I don't want to talk the rest of the night. I know we've got 3 minutes. I'm not known for a short speech, but I read the lease. It was sent to me by, I think, Doug, the lease that these people are signing, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but there was a mention of it in the beginning, that these people that sign the leases, their mouths are shut. They can't say anything, regardless of what happens ex post facto. There was another comment made tonight about who has the most lawyers wins. My lawyers can beat your lawyer. Well, if you are signing away your right to talk, and it's a contract in the civil area between two adult individuals at arm's length, those have been upheld by the courts. But we've got a situation here where whatever Avangrid does depends upon the laws of this town and the laws of this state. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a violation of your First Amendment rights over and over again.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to take a couple more and then we're going to close it. Amanda?
I'm Amanda Potter. I live on the south side of 72. I'm a leaseholder, property owner, taxpayer, and I got to hand it, former board member, and I got to hand it to the town board. You guys have been through a lot, and I support everything you do. And I also support the turbines. I personally don't believe I'm in the renewable energy business, and if you can't share renewable energy for everybody, that's wrong in my mind. Otherwise, why are you paying a foreign entity like Brookfield or National Grid when your money goes out of the country? That's enough of that. But the thing is that we have no new tax base in this town of Hopkinton, and we have a lot of taxpayers, it doesn't cover what we need to come up with. I had to sit on the board and we had to vote to cut $500 to the elderly programs and people that we take care of. The money that can come in from what would be the revenue from these turbines is going to help tremendously every single taxpayer and landowner in this room and in this whole town. It's like everybody's stepping over the elephant in the room. I mean, health and safety, I don't believe all that. Get into some real work.
Madison County.
So anyway, I'm in support of you guys. You have not had a lot of support, and every one of you, it's been very tough. Am I glad I'm not on the board right now? You got it. But I do support you guys. So that's it.
My name is Justin Fox. I live on Route 56, and just want to say that I'm not in favor of the wind turbines. My family lives literally in the center of this thing, and I don't want it. And if they come, we're moving, the whole family, and we're taking our tax dollars with us. And my guess is a lot of people are going to be moving. So you're getting X amount of dollars for the wind turbines, and then X amount of people move. You're kind of defeating the purpose, and not to mention that, you're ruining nature, which sucks. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice, please keep your comments to yourself.
Thank you. Sue, can I go in?
No? Don't push the luck. No, Kelly, you already went.
I know, but
Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Helfter, and I live in Hopkinton, and I am not for the wind turbines, for whatever reason you want to pick. Everybody's got their reasons why they're for or why they're against. Not pointing Amanda out, but she made a good point on the money. So my question is, not pointing Dick out, but he said, the negotiations. Well, what leverage do you have to negotiate when you set a law that the law is either going to be inviting or not inviting? I mean, plain or simple, it's a yes or no. If you invite them in, what leverage do you have as a town on any kind of monies? You're going, assuming what they say as a good faith that, and I don't know, I'm not saying money's been talked about, but there's numbers that fly around in the newspaper that came from somewhere. But what's holding that number? Who knows it's going to be for sure? And who knows what percent of the actual pilot, if you will, which is a whole nother bag, but a pilot, what percent are you going to get? To me, it's like saying you'll buy a car before you even know the price of the car. Thank you.
Or what model is it?
Corey.
Corey Sheldon, Parisville. I'm going to talk a little bit about the money. Cogen plants. If anybody remembers cogen plants, they popped up in the late 80s, early 90s. It was under a law that Carter signed into law. Back in the late 70s, calling QF facilities, qualifying facilities. These cogen plants popped up in the North Country, and we've all recently heard the Ogdensburg cogen plant, more recently than most of them. But when deregulation happened, so did the pilots. They came back, renegotiated the pilot agreements with all the municipalities if they didn't dissolve. So the pilots, they're not fixed. If the government subsidies dry up, just like deregulation did, so won't these pilots. It's not fixed. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Anyone? No. I know, I'm going to make sure that everyone has, you can both get it. Okay, your name?
I'm Larissa Martin. I know there's people here that have health issues already, and if these turbines come in, would they be willing to pay for everyone's health problems?
Oh, very good question.
Excellent. Would you willing to pay for everybody's health? That's
Problem.
enough. Just repeating the statement. Mr.
My name's Dan Murray.
I know. I don't go every night.
I'm
Where
with
are you
Avangrid.
from? Wait,
And
where?
thank you for
From?
coming. And I'm from Lowell, New York.
Okay. Hush, let him go.
There are 2 points I'd like to touch on. And the first is the setbacks in your proposed law. There's no justification provided for a setback of 5 times the total height of a WEX from non-participating property lines, public roads, wind overlay boundary, APA boundary, and non-WEX building, farm, or commercial structure, or any above-ground utilities. This would equate to a 2,500-foot setback for a WEX of maximum allowable height of 500 feet, as proposed for the Northridge Wind Farm. This is well beyond the limits established in other towns in New York with operating wind farms. It appears the proposed setback is based on a calculation presented by a WAB member at the November 28, 2016 WAB meeting. However, that calculation originated from the Convert-A-Lot website, which included qualifying text noting the calculation is theoretical and assumes no atmosphere. Thus, the calculation ignores real-world variables such as aerodynamic drag, ice mass and shape, blade position, position of ice fragment, mass rotation during flight, and wind speed and wind direction. The WAB also failed to consider resulting reduced rotor RPM, wind plant operational protocols, historical operational experience, the many scientific journals and peer-reviewed reports specific to turbine blade ice throw, and its complexity and a risk probability of occurrence assessment, true in any safety analysis. The second point I'd like to touch on is the Maple Ridge Wind Farm, which everyone knows is in Lewis County. That's where I'm from. And at the May 3rd, 2017 Hopkinton WAB meeting, a CCRP member stated that he went to the Maple Ridge Wind Farm, found someone that had health problems, left their home, and started feeling better. What he failed to mention was that this family had no problem purchasing this farm with turbines all around it for over market price. The house had been empty for nearly 15 years with a leaky roof and water running through the basement. Imagine the possibility of black mold, rodent feces, along with the fact that they had a house fire last winter after moving in. Is it any wonder this person may have felt better after moving out? None of these important points were mentioned by the speaker. Hinting that Maple Ridge turbines had anything to do with this person leaving her home is nonsense. But it does show you that leaving out a few relevant facts can change how the story is perceived. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Very good.
Yeah.
He has it? Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
My name is Carl Garber. I'm living in Woodland here in Hopkinton. I'm going to address this to the board specifically. As a career firefighter down in Connecticut for 29 years, and I was involved in negotiations and contracts in that time, more or less throughout that time. When we first started, we dealt with people like you on the town board, and we had good contracts and everybody was happy. Then they decided to bring in lawyers, and these lawyers don't care about what's going on between you or us. They get paid no matter what happens, either way. They come in, they make their money, they go home, they sleep good at night, and we're left holding the bag. You have to make sure that you represent everybody that lives in this community to the best of your ability, and don't get swindled or screwed by these people who care less about you than the dollar that they're going to put in their pocket.
Thank you. Okay, I think that we can, yes, sir, you haven't said anything yet.
Yes, thank you. Following on to that statement. My name is Charles Prescott. I have a camp at Lake Adonia. I'm a second generation owner of that camp. My roots are in Potsdam and in the North Country. If you want to keep this company honest, keep it tied to you financially. Now, this is a famous company. It has put up and let go and released to the wild lots and lots of its towers all through Europe. There was a flight I took a few years ago from capital of, Portugal. I was flying from Portugal to London. We got up to altitude flying over the coast, and for literally 45 minutes to an hour along the head of the country, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, tower after tower after tower after tower. I stopped counting at around 400. Half of them, some number of them, are reported to have been abandoned. That shouldn't happen. If someone is going to build, if you're going to let somebody build a great big piece of metal in your community, make sure that they pay you for the right to do that. And that they also put money in the trust funds, which you control, that will rip that down when it's abandoned. And perhaps make it a little bit bigger. You do have citizens who actually are injured by the presence of these towers. And there should be a medical fund. There's a lot of understood, uncontrolled science involving these things, like there is with any generator of electricity. But you owe it to yourselves to insure yourselves with their money against the risks that appear in the future.
Thank you. Okay, sir?
Brandon Baldwin from Parishville. I heard you mention bids earlier. Normally when there's a business transaction, there's more than one bid. It sounds like there's only Ivagoa here. Why couldn't we look at other bids such as solar panels from defense?
Okay, I think we can end the public hearing now. Motion to adjourn it. Greg made a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Second. Gilbert seconds. All in favor? Okay, let's move on to our regular meeting. Thank you everyone for attending, and I have a lot of notes. Chrissy has a lot of